What is up, everybody? We are back. We are back. We are back, baby. We got Friday. We got Friday. Yeah, we
It's
got
Christmas.
Friday show. It's a Christmas episode. Welcome on in, everybody, to the Big Tilt. I'm happy. I'm happy to sit here and break down Week 16's matchup for y'all. But I'm more so that I don't have to do it by myself, right? I actually have a special guest with me, Trevor Tipton. What's going on, Trevor? How you doing, my man?
Doing good, man. Just in the this is the grind of the season for me. I'm fortunate I have a lot of my high stakes teams in the playoffs right now. So the CJ news was brutal. That really hurt. He carried me in some spots that I lost. I backed CJ up and Purdy up this year to a lot of my studs, and thankfully I did because how many starting quarterbacks do we have left in the NFL? Like a third, right? None. So yeah, but we're excited. I like the 3-day slate. I actually like the main slate Sunday. So I think there's some interesting spots, especially looking at ownership to take advantage of. And let's go make $1 million.
Dude, I'm ready to make $1 million, and this slate is fun, man. This is a weird slate. It's gonna be a fun one though, because we look at it. We got 7 backup quarterbacks on the Sunday slate. We've got 5 games with 43 or less insinuated point totals. I mean, there's trap matchups across this whole entire board, but you mentioned one before the show. I'm not going to spoil it yet, but you mentioned one earlier that I completely agree with. I mean, the one that I'm going to go ahead and take it, and I'll discuss a little bit more here in a little bit, is like Tyson Chandler coming in at 25 to 35% ownership at 5,600. That's not a free square, people. 5,600 is not a free square, and he has a tough matchup. I just don't like it. I mean, this is just there's one real game that I want to focus on here, and it's the Dolphins and Cowboys. Outside of that, I don't think that there's a direction that you have to go this week, but there's definitely some games that I want to stay away from.
I don't understand why the ownership isn't higher for the Dallas Miami game. Like that's like the nuts offensive matchup. Like,
yeah, it
is
nuts.
Like this is like almost like I'm really considering like running one of my threes as a just full onslaught of that game, like completely overstacking it.
Well, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why you can't do it. And that's because, like, we're talking about Tyreek Hill, we're talking about CeeDee Lamb, even Jalen Waddle with these 2 quarterbacks. I mean, it's tough to stack this game. I tried to build lineups today involving those guys. And there are some pay down options, which we're going to discuss, in our sleeper segment to close out the episode. There are definitely some guys that I want in my lineups this week that are dirt cheap. However, it's tough. It's tough because you got to play 2 or 3 of them in order to get in like a Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, maybe even throw in like, Jake Ferguson, right? If you're going on that side. It's a little bit more feasible with Waddle, to be honest with you. And if you fade CeeDee Lamb, that could be interesting. But keep in mind, man, like we don't know how Dallas is going to handle it if Tyrone Smith and Zach Martin are out. Like, that's a big deal. And although
huge,
it happened in week 3, it did happen in week 3, and we didn't see anything taken away from Jake Ferguson. He still ran the majority of his routes. It was a slightly smaller route share, but it wasn't, abysmal. It's like still 82% or something. Plus he wasn't, he's still splitting off snaps and everything like that with some of the other guys, but he still saw 7 targets that game, caught 5 of them. I think he got a touchdown as well. So he was still like playable that week. I don't expect him to be in blocking, this week. I don't expect him to take that role, but it would be interesting to see if they do that, because the Miami Dolphins, man, they're looking good up front. They're able to get pressure on the quarterback now with Jalen Ramsey back. Their defense is impressive, to say the least. The one player that it actually did affect a little bit was Tony Pollard in the receiving game, but we don't really know if that was just the play calling, the fact that they hated Tony Pollard. But I mean, he only ran about 65% or so of his routes on the snap share that he saw for passing downs that week.
Did you see the article with Pollard this week, the interview with him? He talked about it. He just this is one of the hard parts, right? They didn't leak it out. They never told anybody. He just came out and said, he goes, I was not 100% yet for my injury. He goes, I'm just now the last couple of weeks getting back to like full explosions where I can cut, where I have like full movement again. And look, all of a sudden, like he's getting fantasy points again because he's healthy. It was one of my worries with him a little bit, but I still, had a decent amount of exposure. Had I known like he really felt that way, I would have, I wouldn't have done it. I hate running into we saw the Falcons and Arthur Smith get fined today because of the Bijan non-report, but right, like those, that injury mattered to him and it's made a difference. So, I love that net environment. There's, I love your boys this week, that game. I kind of, we'll talk about Chandler. That's not necessarily the spot I love there, but I like that game. And then there's a dirty game that I think will be interesting to attack.
So we will dive into that, and I probably should have hit the midway segment to get us rolling into this episode. But I do want to mention that the way that I'm going to be really attacking this game, right, to get some shares into it, like you almost have to hope that there's a quarterback out there who's cheaper, who you can still play CeeDee Lamb, you can still play Tyreek Hill, right, and you can still see both of them go off. You can even mix in some Dalton Schultz, or I'm sorry, not Dalton Schultz. You can even mix in some Brandon Cooks and some Jake Ferguson, some Devin Chain makes sense too. But there has to be a quarterback that can still put up points with his legs, right? That can get you there where you don't have to pay all the way up to Tua. You don't have to pay all the way up to Dak. So with that being said, are you ready to kick this episode off? You ready to rock and roll and build some lineups? Because that's what we do here. That's what we do at the Big Tilt. We just build lineups the whole time.
Yeah, let's build some. I'm ready.
All right, let's do this. And as you can see, I was working on some lineups earlier, trying to figure out ways to make it work. If you're looking at the screen, ways to make these different combinations work. So I'm going to pull those off real quick before we get into building lineups. Actually, let me take ourselves out of DraftKings first, because I want to get a close-up of you. I want more of your face, and I also want to talk about some of the stacks that you really want to base some of your lineups on, or just some of the guys that you will have in the majority of your lineups. Who are those studs that you're gravitating towards, Trevor?
All right, so we'll talk about that game. I'll start with that game. So I actually like also the idea of doing like an Achane Lamb stack, or a Hill Pollard stack. That's how I probably ultimately will end up attacking that game. But I like that matchup. Guys that I like this week, I really like Jefferson this week at his ownership. I know he's up there, but it's Justin Jefferson. I like that side. I definitely think there's some opportunity there. And the other game I like that's crazy is I like Arizona and Chicago. The Bears defense has been a little bit better. They can't, this week screams Justin Fields, right? The Cardinals can't stop the run. They are just horrendous versus it. This is a game where, Fields runs for 80 yards with a touchdown, throws for 220 and 2 TDs. At his price, he's breaking the slate with his current ownership.
Yeah, Trevor, you're taking my dude right now. Justin Fields is my guy this week.
I haven't even looked at your guys yet. I don't even know who your guys are. This is just
I'm just
off my head.
Hey, right. I love the love. I love the love. I've always said Justin Fields is a start no matter what happens. If he's below 7K this week, if he's below 7,500 up against Arizona, I'm taking him. And it does make me a little bit nervous, right? Because Justin Fields hasn't been reliable, but he has shown a trend, right? He's been on and off, and he's been alternating really good week and then really shitty week every other week for the past 6 or 7 weeks now. So this is a week where he's scheduled to do well. Hopefully if that trend continues to follow, obviously that's not something we want to rely on. However, I expect, like you said, the Arizona defense to not be able to stop the run, right? To be able to allow Justin Fields to run all over them. I feel like this is an Arizona team that has been playing pretty hard all year, but it's about time. It's about time for them to kind of, let their foot off the gas. They're missing Marquise Brown yet again, so another receiving weapon that's going to keep the ball out of the hands of DJ Moore and some of these downfield type targets. Although I still like DJ Moore, don't get me wrong. That'll bring up here in a second. But the biggest thing is the Bears defense. The Bears defense has been nasty lately. I mean, they they've been, and I didn't believe it. I looked at their schedule and I'm like, oh, they played some shitty teams. Like this is not, and then last week they come out, dominate again. The week before that they come out, they dominate. And it's like, okay, when do you start buying in that this young Bears defense has finally gotten it? It's finally clicked. And honestly, it's when you look at the Montez Sweat trade. Montez Sweat has been an absolute monster for them in terms of pressure rate, and it's changed the entire team. He has single-handedly changed the way that this defense operates. And so that was a major get for them. But guess what? This Arizona team, right? They don't deal with pressure well to an extent. This could end up being a game where Justin Fields is looking at 3 different drives that start in their own or in the opposition's territory, right? Where we have short field positions. We know that Justin Fields, when he feels confidence, right? When he has a first down on the 40-yard line, it's the first play of the drive. He's going to throw that deep ball to DJ Moore, or he's going to take that run and busted coverage, where he sees a wide open gap and takes it for 30 yards rushing. Once he sees that blood in the water, right? He starts just moving. He's like a shark. He's a freaking shark, man. Justin Fields is a freaking shark. I'm telling you. I didn't even think about it until I'm talking, and I'm like, yes, give me that. Give me Justin Fields.
I like that spot for him. I think it's a good spot. I like the opportunity. I like the upside. Like I said, for me, it's even if they're playing on that short field, this is a game, like I said, he has a couple touchdowns, and it's almost, you can almost go naked with him. Agreed. Merry Puka Christmas. Totally agree there today. That was a fun game last night. Other than, I'll digress. The only thing I didn't hit on last night, I crushed last night, was I had Cooper Kupp first TD and he dropped it. So I'm still a little salty.
For those listening to the podcast, we normally don't bring up comments on this show, but we were just commenting. I guess I brought up how Brendan Anderson said, Puka, Merry Christmas, Puka Dynasty holders. Right. Yes, it is. It's a very Merry Christmas to you all.
So here's the other one. What do you think about the man, the myth, the legend, the salary saver this week? Old, reliable Joe Flacco against a banged up Houston team.
Well, before we go into that, right, because I still want to finish off my stacks as a whole, right, for DJ Moore. For Justin Fields, I do get behind DJ Moore. I think you'd have a 2-touchdown game pretty easily for 100 yards, right? Just call it a day, sign off. It was easy day, right? Blowout ends up happening. He could do this in 3 quarters, and it's still a good game. The bigger guy right here is Roschon Johnson, who Deonta Foreman had a personal day yesterday. I didn't see an update as to today, what that was, or if there was anything that he missed today. You're shaking your head and saying no, so I'm assuming you haven't seen anything either.
Yeah, I haven't seen any updates. If he's out, Roschon will be a start for me in high stakes fantasy leagues, if that's how much I like Roschon this week. Like where I have 5-6 figures on the line. Like I'll start Roschon if Foreman is out 100% against this team.
We also have Khalil Herbert, who didn't do well, wasn't efficient last week. I mean, Deonta Foreman lost yards last week, yet Roschon Johnson was rushing for 7.2 yards per carry. And he also had a receiving line. I think he had 4 receptions for like 20 plus yards. He's a must start at his pricing, which I think is what, 4,800.
Yeah, he was dirty. Dirt cheap.
Yeah. So this is a way, this right here, Justin Fields, Roschon Johnson, mixing some DJ Moore, even Cole Kmet. I don't know if he's healthy or not. We haven't seen the update, but if he's healthy, even Cole Kmet, although I don't love Cole Kmet, I like DJ Moore a lot more. But starting with that and then running to CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek mini stack, right? And then you're going to have to pay down, way down at all your other spots. But that's a way that you can still attack this Dolphins Cowboys matchup, get the points from the quarterback position that could beat out Dak, that could beat out Tua, right? And then just hope that it's hyper focused with just those 2 receivers, and there's some turnovers involved, and the defense is, shut them down to an extent, right? But it's essentially a hyper concentration of targets where Tyreek Hill is burning them deep. You have CeeDee Lamb out the slot, because we all know Jalen Ramsey's been shutting down the outside receivers. So you can go ahead and cross Brandon Cooks and Gallup off the board as contributors. Now it just breaks down to CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson. So that's the way that I would like to get involved in this game. Hell, I'll run out CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson and Tyreek Hill in this matchup if I can fit them in the pricing.
What do you think about bringing McBride back in the Arizona-Chicago game?
Oh, I love it. I love McBride. That's all right. So
Yeah, right. So like bringing, going Roschon, Fields, DJ with a McBride bring back.
I love
Could
that.
open up. I think could open up a lot of doors this week.
I absolutely love that. I'm also okay with rolling out James Conner in this matchup,
Yep.
assuming the Cardinals go down, and hopefully Michael Carter. Hopefully Michael Carter does not assume a receiving role like we saw last week where he had 4 receptions. Please keep that away. Let James Conner just be healthy and be a part of the receiving game, because if James Conner is getting 6 receptions, right, he's rushing for 60 yards and a touchdown. We're loving that for James Conner. And the Bears are really bad about containing the running back in the receiving game, and they're really bad about stopping him in the rushing game too. But more so the receiving game, they're just allowing a ton of receptions to the running back. And I want James Conner to get all of them.
Yeah, so because if Fields goes off rushing, right, I don't know that Kmet can get there. That's why I like the McBride bring back. I think that's like a good upside leverage spot for that game.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. McBride is on there. And then I do want to throw out, I will have shares. I will sprinkle in some Michael Wilson. I'm going to sprinkle in some Rondale Moore as well. So like Rondale Moore is somebody that I really think could actually, smash, depending on how the game goes. If this is a competitive game where the Cardinals can stay involved, but they're down by like a touchdown, I think that Rondale Moore can end up having a massive week where they utilize him on the outside as quick dump offs so that Montez Sweat cannot get that pressure on him. My biggest fear is that I run out Roschon Johnson. I run out James Conner, and he ends up becoming just a pure blocker. So in areas that I'm not playing James Conner, I'm going to be playing Rondale Moore.
I totally agree there. That's I think that's a good spot. I like the ownership because Roschon will go up, especially if we get the announcement that Foreman's out. But I think that's a good spot to attack because, like I said, like as we start talking about, right? Say we want to stack, we want to go, just screw it. Like, hey, McDaniel's going to come. We think he's going to air it out, even though we saw Cook just absolutely cook Dallas, right? We think we want to go to a Tyreek Waddle. That's great, but man, we got to get real cheap everywhere else. That's looking at pricing, you're like, oh, like you gotta get cheap real fast.
So you brought up, we'll go ahead and transition into another stack that you want to talk about. You want to talk about Joe Flacco?
Joe, I mean, nobody's gonna own, right? Nobody's willing to own him. And Houston is banged up. Houston has been giving up fantasy points, and they're still like Houston needs to make this competitive, even though without CJ, as crazy as it is, they're not technically out of the playoff hunt yet. They still have a shot. And Flacco, while his numbers are weird, he just keeps delivering and add his ownership, right? He's $5,500. He's only $5,500. So if I take just him and Amari, maybe throw a Jerome Ford in, that's a spot that your cumulative ownership is going to be so low and your price is so low. All of a sudden, I start looking back at, okay, hey, I can get Tyreek, I can get CeeDee, I can get Waddle, I can get those big pieces that I want to have access to.
Listen, I get it. I get where you're coming from, and I appreciate you for coming on the show, but I got to let you go now. No, I'm just kidding. I cannot get on board with you with Joe Flacco, and not for the reasons that you explained, right? Like, I actually like Elijah Moore as like a dart throw this week. I even think that Cedric Tillman could be a dart throw if you really want him to. But the Texans, the reason why they're so bad up against the quarterback this year is because they've allowed a ton of rushing yards and touchdowns. I believe they've allowed the most rushing touchdowns in the NFL to quarterbacks this year. And I'm sorry to break this to you, Trevor, but I don't think Joe Flacco is going to be running for multiple touchdowns this week.
I don't need him to do that.
This is just a week where you're going to have to see 3+ touchdowns from your quarterback in order to get there, in my opinion, up to the pay line to where you're winning big time money in these tournaments. And the Texans haven't allowed a single quarterback to throw more than 2 touchdowns against this team.
So what do you think the point total is this week? So let me walk you through this. What if nobody Hulk? So let me go the other way. What if nobody Hulk smashes? What if everybody's in that 20 to 25 point range? And then you get a quarterback for $2,000 to $3,000 less that's at 18 to 20. Like,
Hey, that would work, but I think this week we're going to see at least one smash. We have
Oh,
to, and I think that quarterback's going to be the guy that wins the Millie Maker. I think that smash, right?
oh, I definitely agree there.
Like, all right, I'm not convinced that we're going to see a smash from the Dolphins and the Cowboys. Like, I'm not like throwing all my money in saying, oh, it's going to hit over 50, right? Because that's where it's at. It's like 50, 49.5, somewhere in that range. I do think that we'll see Jared Goff go off. We could see Nick Mullens potentially go off. We could see Justin Fields potentially go off. We could see
Mullens is much higher than Flacco for me. I'm all over Mullens. He's getting some steam. He's just getting a little steamy now. Like, but again, right? He's $5,300. The other one that no one is talking about, and I don't know why, is why aren't we talking about Geno at $5,800 against one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL?
I was going to bring him up. He was on my list of guys that I want to talk about to be studs in my lineup because of the exact reason that you mentioned. But the reality is like Geno, outside of 3 weeks so far in the year, just hasn't done anything. And it's like, it's so tough to get behind a guy that doesn't seem like he has his team, on board with them.
I agree. It's just right when I'm talking about, if I'm not talking about a cash play. I'm talking about trying to win a GPP event, right? Like he gives me a path of there. I have to admit, I would have loved him to say, hey, we're going to stick with Locke and see what Locke can do after last week, kind of the momentum of that drive, how he finished the game off. I think Locke has pretty good pocket awareness. And again, we know how to beat Tennessee. We know what the blueprint is.
Yeah.
And the blueprint is just go throw the ball on them.
This is the issue, right? This is where the hiccup comes in, which kind of blew my mind because I didn't even realize it. Jeffrey Simmons is out again this week. And that is a massive, massive blow to Tennessee and that run stopping game. Because this has been a team that you want to essentially never run the ball against. Now they've been fine the past 2 weeks, only allowing 55 yards and 39 yards. I'm sorry, that's the Texans. I apologize. Let me switch over to the Titans. The Titans have been terrible the past 2 weeks. That makes a lot of sense. So they've allowed 143 rushing yards and 141. I mean, depending on what happens with Kenneth Walker, which I have not seen that update yet, we don't have to see Geno pass. It's without Jeffrey Simmons in there. It just it's a whole different defense.
We can't put it past Pete Carroll to not establish the run.
Yes. Especially with Jeffrey Simmons list. I was sitting there looking, I was like, wait, Tennessee has actually been okay without Jeffrey Simmons? No, they've been horrible without Jeffrey Simmons over there at defensive tackle. So, I mean, I want to get on board. I really do. I genuinely want to get on board with Geno Smith. I cannot talk myself into it with some of the other guys that are around him. I mean, and I know the Jets have been great so far this season. They didn't look great last week. They got Washington with Sam Howell. We know he can go off at any random time. You have Baker Mayfield, right, who's $200 more, and he's playing one of the worst pass defenses in the league up against quarterback. And then we talked about it. Nick Mullens, who's at 5,300, could absolutely go off. I don't hate CJ Beathard because CJ Beathard, you can't run the ball up against Tampa Bay. It's the same exact correlator, but you're talking about thousands of dollars less. So, not thousands, it's probably about $8,000 less. But I don't hate Geno. I'm not completely against it. I'm just not as on board. I do really like Tyler Lockett this week, though. Tyler Lockett's one of my favorite plays on the whole slate.
Yeah, I think for me, it's ownership driven. When it comes down to it, how are we going to drive that ownership across? I'm always trying to get the lowest ownership combo I can. But again, if we're talking about spots, we want to go there. This is what and we talk about what weird thing could happen to win the Millie.
Yeah, Geno Smith could be it.
Oh yeah, 150 max player is going to have a lineup or two, and this feels dirty to even say it out loud. Is going to have 150 lineups with two of them that have Trevor Siemian and Garrett Wilson stacks against the Washington Redskins.
Yeah, which is great.
Right? And and if I lose to that, I'm okay. But that's this week could be that kind of week where one of those weird, he plays it because it's a salary saver. He gets a billion studs in afterwards. And then, and Siemian gets you 18 points, 20 points.
And you're happy. You're happy with that.
Right. So I think that could be a growth spot. But agree on Baker. I love, we can talk about their Baker's just delivered. This is essentially a playoff game for them in Jacksonville.
Yep.
This game really matters. I love, if we're going to talk about that game, I love Roschon. Again, arguably the best fantasy player this year per draft value capital, right? When you talk about a guy mid-round, I get there's some other guys you got late, but like week in, week out, he's delivered. And I agree. One of the things you brought up is it's not a Hulk smash for me on there. The other side for me is I really like your boys. I like the Detroit mini game.
God, I love it.
That to me has basically, I would almost as good a game environment as the Dallas game, and it's going to be way less ownership.
Trevor, we could sit here, me and you could talk all night about this. We could have a 5-hour-long podcast about DFS, and at the end we will have one listener, and it'll probably be like my mom or something. But we don't want to drive everybody, completely nuts talking about the what ifs. I do want to mention that I love Gibbs, I love Breece Hall, but let's build a lineup, baby. Let's build a lineup. I do want to try and build one with Dak Prescott and Tua, but I don't want to start there. I want to start with the guy both of us love in Justin Fields. Do you have any disagreement on that?
No, I agree. Let's go Fields. I like that Fields Roschon. Fields Roschon DJ McBride start. Like I think that could. Where are we at salary wise if we went those four?
It's actually pretty easy on us because we paid down so far at running back. Which, by the way, people, there's only like 2 or 3 running backs that you might want to play above 6K. All the other running backs are going to be in the 5K range, and their ownership is going to be almost non-existent because of how many running backs are available there. You're going to see 1,000 different combinations, and the likelihood of somebody having a combination in the 5 to 6K range, or even let's say 4,800, because that's where Roschon is. The 4,800 to 6K range is the same as you, is going to be very, very difficult to find. So we're going to go with Justin Fields, Roschon Johnson. Although we don't need to make something different, I just think that works. Meanwhile, we can run with DJ Moore over here at 6,900. By the way, Justin Fields and Roschon Johnson. Justin Fields is 7,100, Roschon Johnson 4,800, DJ Moore 6,900. So DJ Moore is the expensive guy in all this, although Justin Fields is up there too. And then McBride is the third most expensive tight end on the slate. He's at 57. So it's not like we went completely cheap, right? It's not like we went, just throwing our money in the mud. But it still gives us some wiggle room. Now let's pick out our defense. In the middle range, we can always switch it, as we've discussed in the past, and switch it up. Let's go with. I really like Chicago this week. I'm
so do I. Like I don't hate running the Chicago defense with them. They're gonna.
We would have to see a pick 6, I think, in order for that to happen. And McBride's getting involved because McBride needs touchdowns.
Yeah.
At his pricing, he needs touchdowns. 2, probably. Yeah. Maybe not 2. He needs to have at least 80 yards and a touchdown, or 2 touchdowns and like 40 yards.
Yeah. Oh, you went Jack. Okay, that was my other. That was
Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Tampa Bay, 100%.
And if we want to run out Rachaad White, that's going to keep us off any other studs because Rachaad White, I think, is the most expensive back on the slate at 7,100. 74.
JT's 72, Rachaad 74.
Yeah, Rachaad White is the most expensive guy, so that's going to eliminate us from anything else. But we're sitting at 5,700 per player. Let us know in the chat if there's a certain player you would like to see in this lineup. Keep in mind, we might not pick it, but we're always open to interesting situations.
What about it like a $6,000 running back?
I like the 5,500 range. I mean, anywhere in the 6K, 6,500 down to 4,500. I'm interested.
Yeah, so I love Aaron Jones versus Carolina. He's a little more. He's 64. I actually like Jerome Ford at 5,400. That's a good price point for me. I'm going through everybody here.
What about Gibson? I mean, Gibson's sitting here, somewhat pretty.
I can't play him after last week. I don't, and it's because I don't trust Ron to not be Ron Rivera is my issue. I just can't trust him there.
God,
The
you're
other
gonna
side is probably Chuba. Like as crazy as it say Chuba, so I like Roschon. I think Arthur Smith is a nut job, and he comes back and he uses Roschon this week to try to save his job. But again, that's low sixes where if we want to stay in the fives, right? Chuba's gets us to 5. The other cheap one I really like this week is Tajay. If we want to get a salary saver in there, I don't see the need for Tennessee to keep beating Henry into the ground. Tajay has looked great the last few weeks. He's their running back of the future, and he's like $4,700 this week.
47. Yep.
Yeah, like that's right. If we want to make room for the Tyreeks, the Lambs, the Waddles, that's another spot I think we could find some room out there.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I really don't. It's interesting because we could think that like this could be the lineup that we say, hey, every team busts, right? We don't see a single team hit over 50 outside of this game. And we could go James Conner at 5,900 and be sitting real pretty if this game hits 60 points. But I don't want to go that heavy on this game. I want to try and mix it up a little bit. I'm just throwing that out there because this is right now we have the base to our lineup, right? And what you do is you go over to the DFS Dominator app over on Player Profiler. You take our base, right? And you just mix in the stuff, right? It'll give you 150 lineups you can throw out, and you can mix in the ones that you want, throw out the ones that you don't want. DFS Dominator is awesome. We're going to hear a little bit about that later. But, I mean, that's
what about
option if you want to go that
route. What about a 5K Charbonnet, being that no Jeffrey Simmons, and we know Pete Carroll, right? It's not out of, not only is it not out of, it is in Pete Carroll's wheelhouse to just go all Kenneth Walker, all there. I like Jerome again. I like Jerome Ford in this spot. Same 5,400 to use Charbonnet at 5. He has that, upside at his price to, go 3X, and if he goes 4X, we're like, right. He starts getting 4X. We're so far ahead of the field.
Yeah. So I like if Walker's out, I'll run Charbonnet all day. Yeah. But I don't want to touch Charbonnet if Walker plays.
Yeah, that's only if if a Walker's out.
Yeah, Jerome Ford, meanwhile, hasn't done it for me lately. I love Jerome Ford coming in. He hasn't done it for me lately, but this is an interesting spot. We talked about how Houston has been limiting the wide receivers and the quarterbacks as a whole. I feel more comfortable with Jerome Ford at this place.
I just think it gives us, right, like as we're talking about like salary relief and options.
Let's come back to running back and see how much money we have left.
Let's go build it and figure out what we want to play with it. I like that.
We both like Tyler Lockett, right? That could be a good we throw in. I like Jackson Smith and Jigba as well up against Tennessee. Obviously, he had the game-winning touchdown last time.
I like Lockett with Gino. I like JSN if it was Drew Lock.
So what about Parker Washington? I mean, we could see Zay Jones out, right? It's CJ Beathard who had that connection with Parker Washington. Trevor Lawrence and Parker Washington just didn't seem to be on the same page if you watched the games. There was just a disconnect. CJ Beathard went off with Parker Washington because they've been playing pretty much the whole season together as the second string guys. Parker Washington at 3,800.
Yeah, he's a great salary saver. Like he's one of my favorite salary savers this week.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my sleepers that I was going to mention, but I'm spoiler. I really like him. I'm going to throw him in here. I also like Jameson Williams, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. But I mean, Parker Washington just has that connect, and he's the second receiver on this team now. Second receiver behind just Calvin Ridley.
Don't get me so sad about missing all that. So you'll make me cry.
That's just a great way to kind of figure out where our budget could lie. So I'm going to go ahead and throw him in there. We now have 6,400. This. You want to get real wild, right? We go Parker. You brought him up, so we go Parker, Jameson, and then right, like our flex running back is we can put in pretty much anybody we want to play. Let's throw Jameson Williams in there and just see what happens. I want to get the whole point of this was to try and get Tyreek Hill and CeeDee Lamb into this matchup. We're not going to be able to get both.
Yeah, we'd have to pay down a tight end.
But what we could do, maybe,
What is What if we go Ferguson instead of McBride?
Yeah, we could. Well, we still want somebody to run it back, right? We'd end up, if we did that, we'd probably play James Conner, right?
Yeah, I'm just thinking price wise where we're landing right now.
Well, I definitely want to play somebody from Arizona because there's no way Roschon's going to be involved if it's a complete blowout.
Yeah, for me, it's just McBride. He's just worth the spin there. So what do we have?
I agree with you. I completely agree. We have 6,200, so we're still sitting pretty. But that means that we're just going to be playing CeeDee Lamb solo, and it's going to be a blowout, performance on one side. Miami's not going to be keeping up.
Yeah, that's.
I would love to play. Let's see. Ferguson is 49. Let me do this. Let me switch in Ferguson. We're left with 7K. I can get in Devon a chain in here.
I brought that up at the beginning of the show. Give me an HN Lamb, and we run that in. I really like that.
We would have to punt all the way down to the Panthers defense away from the Buccaneers and play HN.
Oof.
Panthers defense against Green Bay. It's not the worst thing to ever happen.
It's not. I'm looking at something. You know what? I actually like it. Looking at what I model them at myself. I don't think they're the worst.
I think we could also, real quick, go with a different defense than that. I just plugged in HN. We have $100 left. So I could go with the Vikings against Detroit. No, I don't want to do that. I'd rather play Panthers.
The play would be as if we could stack the Bears there because we got rid of McBride, but I think we're $100 off.
Yeah, we are. No, we're a couple hundred off. We're like 300 off, 400 off, 300 off. So right now we're looking at Justin. Well, then I would actually have to switch out CeeDee Lamb. Oh man, we got into a rabbit hole doing this because now I don't want to have two. I guess I could have two Dallas players in a complete blowout and just assume, they're going to run away with it. Tyreek Hill gets 80 yards and a touchdown, doesn't pay off his salary. Jalen Waddle gets 80 yards and a touchdown, doesn't pay off his salary. Achane gets 2 touchdowns and 100 yards rushing in a complete blowout where Dallas has to do what they did last week and just load up Jake Ferguson and CeeDee Lamb in the fourth quarter, and they get a shit ton of receptions and yards.
Okay, so hear me out here. What if we get unique at tight end and we went Tampa D with Cade Otton instead of having Ferguson?
I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I don't think Cade Otton is going to be that Millie Maker winner.
That's exactly why he's going to be the Millie Maker winner, because everybody's sitting there saying, I don't think that guy can ever get us there. Let me pull up I'm pulling everything.
One time he was able to do it off 2 touchdowns.
Yep, hold on.
Where they put up 39 points or 37 points. That game total at 74 points, Trevor. Yeah. That's not going to happen. And if it is,
the problem
we need
is
the Bears, in there.
Right? And my challenge is the Bears are one of the worst defenses in the NFL versus tight end. That's why I like McBride so much there.
Yeah, I agree.
McBride is good chalk for me. McBride's going to be chalk, but he's worth the chalk. But Jacksonville, listen, Jacksonville's the 5th worst defense in the league versus tight ends. They're giving up 200 fantasy points.
You need 60 points to be scored in that game for Cade Otton to be relevant. They scored 74 for him to be relevant. The only game this year.
The problem is
the only game where he could have been in the Millie Maker lineup, just even in it, they had to put up 74 points or 76 points. It was 76 points. He's not going to be the primary target in this offense. He won't even be the secondary. He's not even the tertiary. The tertiary is Rachaad White. And even if people are saying he can't get there, there's a reason why.
I'm 100% going to play him in a lineup now, just so you know. I 100%. So I'm listen, I'm pretty known for willing to like get weird, but it's why I've won some crazy stuff. It's because I'm just willing to do stupid shit like that.
We already have too much.
Hey, know who we're not talking about? Oh my gosh. I just looked right now. Know who we're not talking about?
Who?
Why aren't we looking at Tyler Conklin versus Washington? I mean, I get it, Siemian, but Conklin's not going to be owned. He's been super used in the offense, and like he has like 15, 18 point upside.
Why are you trying to pivot off of Jake Ferguson? That's all I want to know. So we don't have to play the Panthers?
Well, no, here was why. Because I didn't like the Lamb Ferguson stack. So my thing is if Lamb, right? If Lamb goes 8, 125 and a TD, Ferguson goes 6, 60 and a TD. We need Dak to not do anything else, right?
Yeah, that's what the Miami Dolphins have been doing this whole year, right? They limit one receiver, typically the slot guy, and then they allow the tight end to put up points, and they shut down everybody else. I mean, Brandon Cooks ain't
okay
gonna do shit.
I'm just I like it. I don't hate it. I was just trying to get a way to get off the Panthers defense.
Yeah, Panthers defense is obviously the grossest spot here. I just don't see an area that I would want to pivot off unless we move away from DJ Moore, because we just think this is going to be a rush-heavy game and it's going to be a complete blowout. The only thing that I would like, I guess, to add to this is somebody from Arizona. So maybe if we switch off J-Mo and get Rondale Moore in there, I might like that.
I don't hate Rondale here.
We still got 2 other lineups to build too. We're running out of time, baby.
All right. Let's go with this. Let's go down this road.
Oh, I think
it's a good road.
We pivot off J-Mo.
Okay.
We do Rondale Moore, and we can upgrade $300 at our defense.
I like it. It gets us to at least, like, I think Tampa.
Let's do that. And I love J-Mo this week. I'm going to be playing plenty of J-Mo. Once again, people, this is just a skeleton build. Use what we're doing, the general consensus of it, and try to take some of these lineups and apply them to yourself. So which defense do we take? It would have to be Tampa Bay.
Yeah. We get the Bucks there at that price.
All right, we're in. Enter. All right, first lineup is built, my friend. I hope you're feeling good.
I like it.
I hope you do. I hope you love it. I hope everybody at home loves it. We got comments in there. I'll get to the comments here in a second. I talked a little bit about the DFS Dominator. I need y'all to hear just a little bit more about it because it's worth listening to. Let's go ahead and check this out.
DFS getting harder every year, but we're here to make it easier with the DFS Dominator because I know a lot of optimizers keep coming out. Oh, our optimizer. What about this optimizer? But that optimizer. Well, we have a cash game optimizer that leverages the projections from Dario, Billy, the award-winning projections at PlayerProfiler.com, and builds the best lineups for cash games that have both upside and stability because that's what you want. It's a couple clicks, boom, boom, boom. You get the best possible lineup for your cash games. But for tournaments, traditional optimizers don't work. That's why we have a Lineup Genius, which takes you through the process of building lineups the way they should be built. Which quarterbacks you want to be overweight on, then building stacks, then setting runbacks, then optimizing, and generating up to 150 lineups that you can easily import into DraftKings, into FanDuel. That's the DFS Dominator. It's only $45 a year, not a week, a year. Just go to Player Profiler, click on the DFS Dominator from the menu, and you won't be sorry.
Whoosh, that's right. People go check out the DFS Dominator. I can't stop talking about it. I use it all the time. Now, let's go ahead, Trevor, as I accidentally exit off of the DraftKings sheet. I need to hear from you what some of the guys you're avoiding this week. Let's hear it. Some guys that you don't want anywhere close to your lineups.
Devin Singletary at his ownership. This is wild. I don't know what. Like I literally thought my computer was broke. Like, and I'm looking at his his ownership here, and I'm trying to figure out like what I missed to get like him to be right now the projected highest owned running back. I get is only $5,500, but I don't get it. Like, it's Cleveland, people. Like, they're one of the best run defenses in the NFL. I can't, like, I've literally, like, I started searching, like, did I miss an injury report? Is a bunch of, like, am I missing stuff that nobody else is missing? Like, I don't understand. So he is absolute, positive, full fade for me this week. Like, I will have 0 shares. If I did lose because I didn't play Devin Singletary, I am okay with it.
Yeah, I don't see it either. It's just not there for me. It won't be in my lineups. I didn't even think about him playing, and then you brought him up prior to the show, and I was like, wait, what? Like, he's up there for real? That's crazy to me.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, that is, like, he's wild to me. And then I don't really have, like, I don't want the other guy that I don't want a lot of exposure to is your guy, so I'll let you take him because that's the other guy that it's funny because they're right there in ownership.
Yeah, Ty Chandler. I don't get it. He has a tough matchup up against Detroit. This is a game, by the way, people, that Detroit should run away with, especially Phillips, the defensive tackle, misses this game because we already talked about the second, arguably the best offensive line in the league with the Detroit Lions, right? We talk about a team from Minnesota that blitzes excessively, but completely unsuccessfully. So they're blitzing all the time, and they really don't get pressure on the quarterback. It's pretty bizarre outside of, their one stud defensive end. If Phillips misses this game, they're just going to rush all over them. And Ty Chandler is going to end up pretty much being held into block, right? He's not involved in the receiving game very often. I think his career high in receptions is like 4, right? He might see 2 or 3, but he doesn't really do anything with them. He doesn't have breakaway ability. He's essentially just, going to compile yards, but he's not going to get that opportunity to compile yards this week because guess what? Detroit is going to be busting the Vikings' ass. So I love the passing game in this matchup for Minnesota. I love Jahmyr Gibbs, which I didn't get a chance to talk about. I love Jahmyr Gibbs this week. I love running out Justin Jefferson. Hell, I don't think I've ever said it on this show, but I'm cool with Jordan Addison. I actually 100%. I would play him. I would play him in a lineup this week.
All right, well, let's build our game stack out of this game here. I think we're both on the same page.
All right, let's do that. Share screen again because I actually.
So here is what's been great on social media that I love this week too. I'm going to talk about your pressure rate thing, right? We know Goff isn't great against pressure. It's documented. We know it. And everybody's touting the blitz rate of the Vikings, but nobody's talking about how it doesn't actually bring pressure, and all it does is get them burnt like toast.
Exactly. Like, it is literally like they don't get pressure on them. It's absurd. And everybody's like, oh, man, they blitz a ton. Jared Goff's going to be under pressure. Well, Jared Goff also has the 3rd best completion percentage, I believe, indoors. And he has a top 5 completion percentage indoors under pressure. But that doesn't matter because the Minnesota Vikings, although they bring pressure all the time, they don't get pressure on the quarterback. How do you alleviate pressure? You use the screen game, which the Detroit Lions are extremely, extremely talented with. And guess what? Minnesota sucks to defending. We're going to see a lot of David Montgomery rushing up the middle and running draw plays as well. We're going to see a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs in the screen game. I like both those guys, and I love playing Goff with Jahmyr Gibbs, and give me Jameson Williams, who we talked about earlier, as a way to add another fuel to this fire of a lineup that we are about to build.
So something I'm really considering running in my 3 max this week is I'm really considering running a Monty Gibbs stack with like an Addison or JJ bring back and just run those two, right? Like run those two stacked together. Like I like them stacked and I like the Miami back stacked. I like Raheem Devin stacked this week. So I think nobody's going to be willing to do it, and it gives an interesting spot.
All right, well, we want to start with Jared Goff in this, right?
100%. Going Goff.
Over Mullens, because Mullens actually, we built a Fields lineup already at 7,100. We could build a cheaper one if you'd like to.
Here's why I like this. Mullens currently is the 3rd highest owned quarterback Goff is right at number 10. So give me a guy that is less than 50% of his ownership on the better offense with the better offensive line.
Now, the reason why I like to play Jameson Williams over playing Amon-Ra St. Brown is because you don't handicap yourself with the salary. If you play Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're screwed. You're paying down at every single level. I'm going to put in the Bears defense for now because we both like the Bears defense this week. And we might not have any Bears players in this lineup or Arizona players. So we got Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jameson Williams, the Bears defense. We got about 5,900 per play left. Man, we could go anywhere with this. Let's go ahead. I like Justin Jefferson, man. Do we want to pay up for Justin Jefferson? He's only 8,100, which has to be one of the cheapest he's been all season.
That's for me. This is a JJ buy spot. Very few times in the next, 3 to 7 years.
I was just about to say years.
Right, years. Are we going to get JJ for $8,100 on a main slate?
Only weeks 1 and week 2 in the NFL season in each year will we see anywhere close.
Yeah, I'm talking about like real weeks. So
yeah.
So like you're never gonna get him like at this point in the season at that price. Like he is, I think he's a great pay up here.
Yeah, I love him. He's my go-to everywhere. I don't mind playing Jordan Addison, but Justin Jefferson is a $1,500 discount from his normal production. Like imagine if you said, hey, we're taking over-unders, and Justin Jefferson sitting at 45 yards. It's like, yes, you take that every single time. Yes. Like there is no question. You take Justin Jefferson at 4,500 every time. I mean, at 45 yards, you take him every time. 55 yards, you take him every single time. 60 yards, 65 yards, you take him every single time. Right when around 75, you start questioning, do I want to take the over on that because he hasn't been healthy? We don't know if he's right. But if you see him at 60 yards over-under, you take him. That's what his pricing is pretty much insinuating, is that he is not going to put up a normal Justin Jefferson game or anything even relatively close. He's going to be putting up Jalen Waddle type game, 17 points.
Totally agree.
So we're going to play Justin Jefferson with Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Jameson Williams, who, by the way, Jameson Williams is the real deal. Potentially, we saw 7 targets last week. He's running, in-depth routes that I absolutely love. He's not just running wind sprints up the sideline, so that's very encouraging. It seems like they finally figured out a way to utilize, and we know that most of the focus is going to be in Amon-Ra St. Brown. So we have 5,400 almost left. This could be a great spot for us to play Trey McBride if we'd like to.
Yep, I like Trey here for sure. And another wide receiver I like this week that nobody's talking about, and he's just not owned, and he has proven it doesn't matter who his quarterback is Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson continues to get peppered with targets. He's their only real receiving option, and they get Washington this week. I don't know why people aren't willing to play him, right? Go give me 8 targets again for 80 yards and, hopefully a TD, and you're crushing at his ownership.
I have him the 4th highest ownership, or the 4th highest player, the 1st highest wide receiver on 2 different sites.
I don't even have him top 10.
Yeah, I have about it's Jets, Ty Chandler, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson on this one, and then it's the same one on the other. No, I'm sorry. Breece Hall is below. Devin Singletary is above him. So yeah, Garrett Wilson is high on for me. I guess make an educated guess on this one, but everyone I've talked to
I'd like
has
him less than high ownership, but where I'm looking right now, he's just not owned. So I like attacking defenses I know aren't good.
Yep.
So those are spots I want to go after.
I'm down to throw him in this lineup. You want to get him in this lineup, or hell, we could get Roschon Johnson in this lineup and do a skinny stack with Roschon.
I love that, because then our wide receiver flex, we got buku salary.
Yeah, we'll do 5,800, and then we got Roschon at 48. And I know we played Roschon in the last one. I normally wouldn't double up on this one, but it just feels like the inevitable spot to go at 4,800. I can't believe his ownership isn't higher. That's a little bit bizarre to me.
You got to put him at running back.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so we got Roschon. Where are we? 4,800. Now we're sitting here with Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Roschon Johnson, Jameson Williams, Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, Trey McBride, the Bears defense. We have 5,200 left. Obviously, this is insinuating that the Miami Dolphins and Dallas Cowboys game doesn't do anything because we don't have a single player from there. Typically, that's not the recipe for success where we bet against the only 50-point over-under and we take players from multiple games. But we do have a major correlation with the Detroit-Minnesota game. We have a mini correlation with the Arizona and Chicago game. Where we probably won't correlate is the Jets in Washington, which I'm fine with. So, we just are insinuating that there's independent value to be had, that he has 2 touchdowns and like 80 receiving yards, 100 receiving yards, and he just dominates the slate, finishes off as a top 5 wide receiver this week, is what we're insinuating with Garrett Wilson. So we have a flex spot open. We're sitting at 5,200 remaining. We have guys like Noah Brown, Antonio Gibson, Drake London, Zach Charbonnet, who, by the way, we have suggestions in the chat to get Zach Charbonnet in our lineups. Listen, it makes sense, and I'm down for Zach Charbonnet, but up until I start seeing the progression or the lack thereof progression from Kenneth Walker, I am not in on Zach Wilson yet. We also have some Tajay Spears love. We actually discussed Tajay Spears a little bit earlier in the show. We really do like him. He's definitely on the board for us. It's more so about the build and what we're looking for in this game. For example, if this game ends up hitting below probably 40 points, Tajay Spears doesn't do enough to get you over that hump for the big tournaments to pay off. Like if he ends up having 5 receptions for 60 yards and maybe 20 yards rushing, that 13 points ain't getting you anywhere.
Yeah, it's for me here. It's the order and it's close, but it's Brown, Curtis Samuel, Drake London, and then Tajay.
Ooh,
but
I like Tajay more than all those guys.
Yeah, I love Tajay's upside this week. I have personally bet a bunch of Tajay overs, so I'm on Tajay this week.
Actually, I like Gibson. I like Gibson more than Tajay. I just think that, especially if we're
yeah, I mean we can correlate the game.
That's a lot. That's a lot of correlation.
Yep.
That's a lot of correlation. We have Jackson Smith and Jigbo.
Yeah, I don't hate JSN at that price for sure.
And that's an independent play. I know that you said you like him more with Drew Lock, but
yeah, I don't hate like for this build. I'm good with that in this build.
That's kind of where I was looking at. Like, there's a bunch of guys we could squeeze in here and say, hey, it works, but it doesn't work for this build. Like Tajay Spears doesn't really work for this build because we already have our minimum guys without maximum upside. Like for example, Roschon Johnson, right? He's a guy for this build.
I like the JSN play here. Leave the salary on the table, take the JSN, and we can move on.
Yeah, 700. All right, let's do it. Oh, man, we're already 8 o'clock. Woo! We got to build one lineup super fast. And this is like the most interesting section this week, and it's our flyers. It's our flyers, man. All right. Let's go ahead and let's build one more lineup. I still get a 50K fair catch for the single entry. Oh, crap. I just submitted that one. All right. Let's go to 25. I just submitted the last one in the 2 lineups. It's all right. I'll switch it up later. All right. So this one is interesting as to where we go with the quarterback position because we already took 2 guys that are around the same price, 7,100 and 6,900. I feel like we got to pivot down to show the people what it's like to build with a cheaper guy, one of these dudes that you brought up earlier that can really go off. I'm interested in Trevor Siemian. I'm interested in CJ Beathard.
I'm way more Siemian than Beathard.
Okay. Is there anybody else in this range that you might be more interested in? Because honestly, the
other one for me is an Atlanta stack with Heineke, London, Bijan.
God, why do you like Drake London so much?
I hate Arthur Smith. I love Drake London. So I like his price this week. And Indy hasn't been very good defensively lately. Yeah. And Indy's really great up against the slot. I'm down. Let's do it. Why not? Like if
You
we
like
want to go
Heineke
that
more than Siemian?
no, I like Siemian. But Siemian breaks the slate because he's not going to be owned. Like the
He's a
upside, it's
slate breaker.
Washington. Like everybody has smoked Washington this year. Everyone, and I get right. We saw like this is the type of game we saw what Aiden O'Connell and the Raiders just did to the Chargers. This is a game Siemian and the Jets could do this to Washington. I don't think they put up 63, but it's not out of the realm to watch them go put up 40.
And honestly, I like Breece Hall in this matchup because of Washington.
I totally agree.
I love Breece Hall. I know he's going to see high ownership, but I love some Breece Hall.
Yeah,
so I'm gonna play some Breece Hall. We're gonna play some Garrett Wilson, right? Because we already discussed that.
And I like the Samuel bring back here.
I don't even know if we need a bring back in this one. This could just be a complete blowout.
Oh yeah, like listen, like
Washington.
Sam's bad, and they bench him for Brissett, right?
And then, all of a sudden, there's no points generated.
Right, and it's just the Jets scoring.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
I like that.
All it has to do at this point, we just need 4 touchdowns, right? We need 1 passing and 1 receiving. I mean, 1 receiving and 1 rushing from Breece Hall. We need 1 to Garrett Wilson, right? And then 100 yards receiving. And Trevor Siemian at 3 touchdowns is phenomenal.
Wilson's going to have 8 to 10 receptions this week. Like he's just going to get peppered with targets.
Yeah. I think we're fine with this.
Okay.
Does this make it to where we have to play the Jets defense though? Because then Washington's going to be forced to drop back and pass. We're going to see plenty of turnovers if this is the case that we believe it is.
I mean, at the end of the day, right, who gets sacked a ton, right? Like if we're saying this is going to be a blowout, then we play the Jets D.
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of like obligated at this point to play the Jets D. But
Agreed.
The Jets D is also the highest on defense on the slate, but Trevor Siemian should help balance that, so it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, if we start talking about like correlation, yeah, I like that there.
No, we're fine. All right, so we're sitting pretty. We got $6K left per spot. This is a great spot to get in both Tyreek Hill and CeeDee Lamb. You against it?
No, let's go. That's why we're doing this build.
Yep. And then let's talk about some sleepers real quick, just because I didn't separate and have some time for this. Montgomery, his pricing rate should have Gibbs as the heavier one owned. I don't think that his pricing really works for this one, so I guess I'll skip the majority of this conversation. But I think that if that game turns into a blowout, Montgomery's worth playing. I've already talked about Jameson Williams, Tucker Kraft.
Yeah. I didn't bring him up because you had him on your list. I'm starting Tucker Kraft a ton this week in my fantasy semis, in the big FF, PC, NFC, runs. I'm starting Kraft. We know Musgrave's not active now, so it's all hands on deck for me with Kraft.
Yeah. Plus, if Jaden Reed doesn't play, Christian Watson doesn't play.
Watson ain't going to play. He doesn't have hamstrings.
And then all you have is Devonta Wicks. Tucker Kraft could end up being a lock. So I love him as a sleeper. We already talked about Parker Washington, who's probably my favorite sleeper on the whole board. And then Treylon Burks makes a lot of sense for this game. If they want to start getting their other guys involved. Plus, we've seen what Treylon Burks can do with Ryan Tannehill. Like he's already shown that he can produce with Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah,
there just hasn't been a bigger sample size.
Totally agree.
And then you have Xavier Gibson, who we could play in this lineup if we didn't want to play Garrett Wilson. Dude, if we fade Garrett Wilson, we play Xavier Gibson in this lineup. Like we're talking about like hammer time for playing some studs. Like we could really think of this game or that.
Yeah, listen, we're playing it here. Let's make this one weird. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go Gibson. Because it was either Conklin or Kraft for me there.
All right, so go Xavier Gibson here.
Yep.
Oops. Oh, it's Gibson, right? GIP. Yeah, there it is. All right.
Yeah,
this is weird now. Yeah, so we have an additional $1,000 per spot left for 3 more positions.
So what about stacking this with how much are we down to?
We have a 5K a piece. And also, real quick, just to finish, Josh Reynolds, Cedric Tillman, Elijah Moore are my other 3 sneaky guys that you can run in here. But go ahead.
What about you brought him up earlier? What about putting Jordan Addison in the flex?
God, this is getting a little too weird. Wait, did I add Amon-Ra? I didn't mean to add
No.
Amon-Ra. I meant to add CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
So Addison. All right, we got Addison over there in the flex. We're left with 4,100.
Are we going Kraft at tight end?
Why not? Let's do it.
Yep.
And then we have running back left, 4,500 on a running back.
Are we going all Roschon?
It was close, but we are not in there. Chris Rodriguez is somewhat interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So I'm not on Gibson this week. I like Chris Rod better. This is a game where I could totally see him. So I like C-Rod here.
Dude, these low, or these like 4K to 4,800, 4,600 running backs are terrible this week.
Yeah, it's awful. Yeah, it's C-Rod for me. It fits the lineup. It fits the stack. It gives us, that bring back. Like, I like it. It's a game correlation, right? Hey, it's a blowout. And it's a blowout so bad they're using him too.
Yeah, they don't want to get anybody hurt.
Yeah,
it's just tough because he just doesn't do anything. And I know the Jets' rush defense is terrible, but he's such a plotter. He's such a plotter.
Who else do we have?
Nobody.
Yeah, if we want to do that, we got to go ahead.
Well, what about if we just take out Jordan Addison real quick? Let's just take out Jordan Addison just to see, right? Because Jordan Addison has almost no piece in this lineup. He's just a random play. If we pivot down wide receiver, like, let's say 5K-ish, right? What was Jordan Addison at? 6K? So like 5,500. Like, let's try Tyler Lockett, see who's available with Tyler Lockett.
We didn't get any Lockett in.
So we have at running back A.J. Dillon, Johnson, Trey Sermon, Kareem Hunt. That's still gross. Outside of Roschon. God, Roschon's going to see increased ownership. By the time ownership numbers actually roll around, Roschon's going to jump because there's just nobody to play. Oh, let's play Tajay Spears. That's a correlation with Tyler Lockett. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. There's the love for Tajay. There it is. All right. We got Trevor Siemian, Priest Hall, Tajay Spears, Xavier Gibson, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Tucker Kraft, Tyler Lockett, and the
When
Jets
this lineup
defense.
wins a lot of money, I'm going to talk a lot of shit on social media.
Just for the fuck of it.
Yeah.
This is the grossest lineup I've ever put together.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, yeah, we ended up getting Tajay in there. We found the right lineup where it just makes sense, right?
Yep.
Where there could be some scoring involved. Hopefully they hit the 40-point over, and he gets in on that. But outside of that, my friends, that brings us to the end of the episode. You got anything to add? You got anything to say to the people out there?
Run pure this weekend. Good luck in all your fantasy, championship rounds. I hope everybody goes good. Thanks for listening in. We still got some more DFS coming, but we love you guys, and I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, man, absolutely love it. Thank you guys for joining. We will see you next week. I will be here next week at 7 o'clock Eastern time. 7 o'clock Eastern time. Make sure you guys hit subscribe over there. Oh, man. And go follow us over there on Twitter at FF_intervention and at, what is yours?
FF, see you later.
FF, see you later. Peace, guys. We'll see you next week.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.